Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another discography ranking. And I am joined today by a guest who has appeared on the channel, not in a discography ranking though. Taavi, who is joining me today, joined me for our discussion of Close to the Edge by Yes. And today we're talking about a band by the name of Steely Dan, classic 70s band. Um, it's interesting doing this because I knew Can't Buy a Thrill and I knew Asia, but they have a lot of albums that get a, especially now, I feel like, from what I've heard from other people, for a while it was very uncool to like Steely Dan. And now in the last like 5 or 10 years or so, they've sort of risen up again and the critical darlings that everybody loves. So it was very interesting to go through these albums. You obviously have 9 albums, 7 of their classic run, and then the 2 reunion albums. So I knew Can't Buy Thrill in Asia, and I knew a couple other songs from the other albums, which I'll get to. What about you? What was your familiarity going into this?
Yeah, I'm on the new Asia actually. So you won in that regard. But I know that album pretty well. Been listening quite a while, and I knew I think most like all 70s opening tracks at least, and like title track to Gaucho at least. But yeah, I had a lot to learn and I enjoyed this very much, and at least for the most part. And yeah, it was a cool ride.
Yeah, I think if you don't know this about Tavi, he likes his music smooth. So this felt like the perfect discography to do with you.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
first. I think I'm a bit more of the mystery here in terms of how much I enjoyed this.
Hmm.
I did not enjoy my number 9, which is Two Against Nature, their 8th album, which I have as a 5 out of 10. I think it's a bit lousy. It won the Grammy for Album of the Year, beating Kid A by Radiohead, among others. Not my favorite Radiohead album, but it's about 10 times better than this. It's like the later Steely Dan stuff, particularly this in my number 8, it gets a bit too smooth for me. And Tavi mentioned it before we started recording, just no variety, just the same mood throughout. It's sort of intensely smooth. Didn't really like the opener, Gaslighting Abbey. What I like a lot about the early Steely Dan is that sort of mix of the smooth sort of sound and the intricate playing, and that sort of the grit and the snarl of Donald Fagen, which works really well at points. But this album just feels really sterile and very like tired. What a Shame About Me has some cool guitar from Walter Becker, which is not going to be the first time I'm going to say that. There's only one song I really liked on the album. That's Almost Gothic. I think that song stands out quite well, pretty good. And that kind of carries the album up a little bit. Yeah, one of the most nondescript albums I've ever heard. Apart from Almost Gothic, I will not think about any of these songs ever again. 5 out of 10, Two Against Nature.
Yeah. I'm not gonna talk about that album yet. I'm gonna talk about Everything Must Go from 2003. Um, well, I think Two Against Nature is the weakness is it's the length, 50 minutes, and yeah, this is shorter, but I don't know, it's almost like I listened to Two Against Nature and then I decided to put it again. Felt like, and I was a bit like, oh, wasn't feeling as much, and like it's kind of like very close to each other in a way. Like if you like Two Against Nature, why shouldn't you like this, and the other way around? But but I guess the length would be that it's 42 minutes. That's better than 51 minutes. But I think the problem is nothing really is like, oh yeah, this is a top 10 Steely Dan song, or nothing truly excites me. While I don't think it's bad, I don't think it's great. It's like a kind of this hard to talk about middle of the road albums, but it still sounds good and like pretty much all Steely Dan albums. And yeah, I don't know. There was I think I preferred the like last two songs, but like after so many seven other songs, it kind of felt like oh dear. But so it's in the 5 to 6 range, but I think I'm gonna put it to 6, but low 6. No, don't need to revisit as much, but maybe I like this is a background album, maybe like when your parents come to visit you, you put it on. I don't know, maybe yeah. That's my number 9.
Well, here's where I have a bit of a curveball.
Oh,
My number 8 is Gaucho, um, which, but we're jumping straight up to a 7. No sixes. I think this is a good album. I actually enjoyed this discography more than I thought I would. Um, and to me, it's not Two Against Nature and Everything Must Go that sound very similar. It's Gaucho and Two Against Nature that sound very similar. They're both very just sterile, just very clean, and not much in terms of energy or anything. Yes, Taavi loves that. But I kind of like a few songs on this album though, which is why I like it more than Two Against Nature. It feels a bit more inspired in terms of the songwriting, and there is some. I think the playing is a lot better on this one as well. The musicianship. I think Babylon Sisters is a very interesting way to start. It's very stripped back, sort of grows as it goes along. Um, Hey 19, often considered the best song on the album, but I'm not as big on it really. I think it starts all right and then it just kind of goes nowhere. But I think this album has some of the coolest bass lines in the discography. I think Glamour Profession is a real highlight of the album for me for that reason. My favorite song on the album is the title track. Musicianship's great. I think it's a great listen. Time Out of Mind does some killer guitar. And then you get My Rival, which is a bit nothing. It's, the problem with this album, sort of this era of Steely Dan, is if the songwriting isn't that great, there's nothing really to sort of grab me because you know, the sound is not as much what I want from them. Um, it's pleasant throughout, like Taavi said. If your parents come around, you can easily put Gaucho on, and it's a good time as long as they don't listen to the lyrics of Hey 19. And yeah, it's a good album. I've got a lot of albums at a 7 before we get to the top stuff, where I feel quite similarly about a few of these. But Gaucho, not my preferred sound, but for what it is, pretty good. Very good musicianship and some strong songs.
nice. I'm almost a bit shocked. I know I'm gonna shock other people and with soon, but and that your last two isn't the reunion albums, but hey, I guess maybe I kind of saw it coming in a way. I don't know, but yeah, I guess I spoiled it. My number 8 is Two Against Nature, and yeah, 51 minutes. Pretty sure it's the longest of their albums, and yeah, nothing like I think it excites me more because I think I do really enjoy the sound of this album. It won the best engineered recording Grammy, I believe, and yeah, album of the year Grammy is a maybe a bit too much. Like I don't know, have I heard any of those other albums actually, but I would have thought maybe Gide or would have taken it, but so it kind of feels like this let's give it to these musical legends kind of award, but I don't think it's a bad album or anything. I think it's a good album, and I think one of the highlights is the opening track, Gaslighting Abby, with nice drum groove going on. And I think the title track is great. It's a big drum jam and yeah, one of my favorites. And like West of Hollywood is a nice ending. And yeah, I gotta like Steely Dan when they do these longer songs actually. It's gonna keep happening with their one of my favorite eras of theirs. And yeah, like I don't know, it's not a disappointment for me because I'm a big fan of their era before this album, but I don't know, it's kind of what I expect from like an reunion album after 20 years. Like it's gonna be safe, but I also don't think safe is not a totally negative thing. And I want to be safe at least. And yeah, it's a pretty nice listen. It's a 7 for me.
Well, I'm not totally crazy because my number 7 is Everything Must Go, another 7 out of 10. Um, so where you sort of listened to them back to back and you were like, oh no, more of the same. I kind of noticed quite a big difference in this one from Two Against Nature. I think the production feels a lot more akin to their earlier 70s stuff. There's a bit more grit to it. It's a bit less sort of smooth jazz, you know. And I really think the opening track has more bite and grit than any song they've done since Asia. So, um, you know, that was a plus for me. I think the first half is pretty strong. I like the things I miss the most. Great little song. Blues Beach, really catchy. Genuine thought put into the lyrics, which I think was not something that was necessarily true of Two Against Nature. I love Walter Becker's guitar tone on this album. So nice. Terrific solos, particularly on a song like Godwhacker. Um, and then yeah, the second half is nowhere near as good. I do like the title track to close. Feels like a good way to end the discography. You know, we're going out of business. Everything must go. Sort of a song about being old timers, and you know, it's kind of a. They were very cynical and humorous, and it was kind of a funny way to be like, yeah, no one wants to listen to our music anymore. We're old. That's like the note that the album ends on, which I think is kind of fun. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed the sound of the album and the fact that it was more akin to the stuff that I enjoyed earlier on in the discography, um, and less so akin of Gaucho. So um, that's why it's my number 7. 7 out of 10 again. Everything must go.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna disappoint people, including Tom. It's Can't Buy a Thrill is my number 7. And the debut album. And yeah, it's a pleasant listen. I think the best song starts it. Do It Again. I think that's my favorite. And I think the obvious weaknesses for me are the other singers that I'm not really as big a fan of. Um, for a debut album, the production sounds good, very very nice for 1972, and well, like it's well played. Like I can't really fault playing or production with this discography or anything, but um, maybe I wasn't as excited with this one as some of the others, and when I get excitement, it's in the form of lead guitar. That's happening on this album, and that's awesome. Do It Again starts with the right simple groove, great playing, and yeah, I said it, it's my favorite song. Dirty Work, the chorus is pretty memorable. Verses are maybe more fine, nothing extraordinary for me. And yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Palmer singing, but not faulting his playing or anything. And with Kings, Fagan is back singing, backing vocalists are very fine, and the guitar solo was pretty unexpected, but very cool. And yeah, Midnight Cruiser has the drummer singing. Didn't get his name, Jim Hodder, and it's pretty good. And I don't know what to say. And really, in the years, the vocal reminds me of like Phil Lynott. I don't Lynott. How do you say it from Tin Lizzy? And I love the guitar work, the bouncy nature of the song, and obviously the awesome guitar solo. I didn't find the chorus that exciting as it could have been, maybe vocally. And maybe you could say the same about the verses, but listen to that guitar wailing. It's so cool. So cool. Fire in the Hole, Donald's piano work is the highlight in that one. Brooklyn wasn't one of my favorites. Was it Palmer? Palmer is singing that one. I can't take those vocals, honestly. They make me a little cringe. I'm very sorry. And Change of the Guard, I like the Nanas, cool guitar solo. Steely Dan really knows how to do solos. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. Like, uh, like it's good, but it's definitely not my peak of this band. I think they
Same
will get
score
more
as Two
melodic
Against
and
Nature. That is crazy.
I'm sorry, what?
Same score as Two Against Nature. That is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can accept you not liking Palmer as much as Fagan, but saying it's cringeworthy, I don't understand at all. But whatever. My number
Yeah.
six, maybe some payback. I don't know where you're going to rank this. Katy Lied is my number six. This is probably the most disappointing album of all of them because it comes smack dab in the middle of the 70s, and spoilers, right between two albums I really, really, really liked. So this one, and the other reason it's a disappointment is because first two songs are amazing. Black Friday is an instant classic. Guitar on it is unreal. Love the rhythm section. Bad Sneakers is like this cool, like sort of more mellow vibe with such a unique hook. And then like the rest of the album, I don't think lives up to those first two songs. I think Rose Darling is pretty cool. One of those songs where I much prefer the verse over the chorus. You get something like Daddy Don't Live in That New York City No More, which is like there's like three blues rock tracks on this album, and I'm like, who wants to hear Steely Dan do 12 bar blues? Not me. Um, maybe one song on an album, but like three, why? Um, Doctor Wu is another one similar to Hey 19 that everybody loves, and maybe I don't love it as much as everybody else, but it's cool, it's fine. Um, Everybody's Gone to the Movies I really like. Your Gold Teeth 2 is like the epitome of style over substance. It's just like an excuse to play complicated parts. It doesn't sound that great. Chain Lighting, sorry, brings more sleepy blues. It just feels much less fun than the albums that came before it. It feels much more serious and much more just, yeah. It I don't know. It's. I mean, it closes well with Throwback the Little Ones, but I'm just feel very disappointed after, again, the album that came before and then the album that came after. I think are much better. Um, it's still pretty good. It's still a 7. I don't know. I think Black Friday and Bad Sneakers are excellent, but I don't know. Drumming's on it great. Drumming on it is great though. Don't worry. I'm not going to slander Jeff. So yeah, Katy Lied number 6.
Yeah, I was really not sure what to do with the next two albums. I think I'm going with. I think I will have this higher too. Pretzel Logic is my number 6, and yeah, 11 songs. I think it's a little pretty front loaded for me, and it starts awesome with Ricky Don't Lose the Number. It's a classic, very melodic, and Night by Night is very cool and one of the earliest Jeff performances I've heard. And great guitar solo and love the playing. Any major dude will tell you has acoustic guitar, very tom core, pretty smooth. Uh, to almost feels. I don't know exactly what I wrote with Something is Missing. I still don't know what I'm missing from it. And like I think most of these songs are pretty enjoyable, but 11 songs, like I kind of like when Steely Dan lets the groove breathe or make it longer with this their use of session players, which they did start to use more with this one. And yeah, then there's like instrumentals. I don't know, East St. Louis Doodle, who is a, I don't know, do I need it personally? It's fine. And Parker's band features two drummers, Jeff and Jim Gordon, and very fast tempo. It's pretty cool, and I love the drums on the title track, and the outro solo is awesome. Yeah. I don't know. It's one of these albums like I think are good, but like I much more prefer the first side, maybe second side, and yeah, it's still a good album. It's a 7 for me. Pretzel Logic.
Wow, I was really thinking you'd be higher on Steely as a whole. I guess we're still 5 albums left, so
Oh
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
My number 5, I'm still at 7 as well, so we're at a similar point at the moment. I've got Countdown to Ecstasy, their second album. Um, I think the biggest flaw of this album, why I was really taken aback by Steely Dan in their classic run is how every album sounds different. There's like a slight difference between each album in terms of sound. This one feels too similar to the debut for me. Obviously, David Palmer's gone, so Taavi's happy. But I like David Palmer a lot, so I was kind of sad. I like the variety that his sort of smooth voice went with Fagen's more rugged voice. I think it worked really well. Not that I think that Fagen couldn't carry the band on his own; he definitely could. But this definitely feels like a transition album. And I like the sound of it more than I like the sound of Katy Lied. I think Bodhisattva, if I pronounce that correctly, is really cool. Great guitar work. That's one of their better, more bluesy tracks, I think. Um, but then, like a song like Razor Boy feels just like a song that was cut from Can't Buy a Thrill. Like it is not exciting. It feels again just like they're treading the same ground again. I think the Boston Rag is really cool. Uh, I actually think the A side is quite weak on this album overall. There's a sense that they're trying to replicate the magic of the debut, and it's just not quite there for me. I like Showbiz Kids. There's a bit more of a soul influence on that one. My Old School is a classic song for a reason. I love it. So melodic, very relatable as well. I'm not going back to my old school either. Um, and there is a really cool guitar solo at the end, like Part of the Quarter has some cool Pale Steel. Uh, and then King of the World closes the album off. So the second side definitely stronger than the first side. Um, it feels like a step backwards after the debut for me. There's not much evolution. The songwriting is nowhere near as consistently great, but you do get some of the best songs of their career here, particularly My Old School. So yeah, lands at number 5, 7 out of 10. It's pretty good, but I think the next album after this one would begin the second phase of their career. So this kind of feels like it lives in the shadow of the debut for me a little bit. So yeah, Countdown to Ecstasy, number 5.
Yeah, I agree. It's my number 5. I have a similar review maybe with you, and I might also prefer the second side of this, although really really like the opening track. I have no idea how to say it. Bodhi Sattva. I don't know. I said it how I would say it in Finnish, kind of. But like it's pretty fun, bouncy, jazzy number, great playing. Nature Boy is melodic enough, little tune. Like it's fine, yeah. And Buster Rack, I wasn't as feeling this as much until that lead guitar break. And yeah, I'm a like with Steely Dan, I'm kind of more into the playing sometimes than the vocals. While I do like Fagan, and I know I was a little too harsh on David Palmer. Like I know he's talented. He was in Steely Dan after all, and yeah, Your Cold Teeth. I love the instrumental break with that electric piano and that more bluesy lead guitar comes on. And Show Biscuits is a fun song. Love the constant backing vocals and I think the electric guitar play in the background. And My Old School is fun. Just re-listen that what Tom said. And Pearl of the Quarter is a nice, more palette type of stuff. And King of the World is a nice ending. I do like this more obviously than the debut. And I have this and I guess they used more time with the instrumental breaks here than the debut. Debut is maybe more vocal heavy than this. And I guess less tunes also here. I have this at 8, so I went a little higher.
Yeah, I think what we've realized is that what we probably knew going in is that we're coming to Steely Dan for very different reasons. And that is reflected in my number 4, Asia, which is my last 7 out of 10. Um, one thing you can say about this album is that you can't say I haven't tried, because I think this was like my third listen of it. There it is. It's my third listen of it in the past like 2 months. So I'm very, very, very familiar with this album. And yeah, this is largely considered their best album, especially by the die-hard fans. But it doesn't really have what I'm here for Steely Dan. The production is a lot more smooth, a lot more clean. Like Taavi mentioned, loads of instrumental breaks, which and also you compare some of them to the instrumental breaks you get on Can't Buy a Thrill. Like to me, there isn't a moment like the guitar solo on Reeling in the Years where it's just like so vicious and like got a lot of momentum. It does feel a lot more just like, yeah, we're cool guys jamming, and that's fine. It's a good listen. It's landed at number 4. And Black Cow, definitely good. Bit too long for me. Just get a bit lost in it. I actually really do not like the title track. It just goes on and on and on. I just don't enjoy it at all. But Deacon Blues is one of their best songs without question. Catchy, great playing, probably the best ever set of lyrics that they wrote. Peg, really fun. Love the sort of bright synth part in that song. Home at Last, maybe a little bit forgettable, but in the context of the album, it's fun, it's good. I Got the News also doesn't do much for me. And yeah, a lot of these songs kind of blend together into this like concoction of smoothness. None of it is bad, but some of the songs do kind of rub me the wrong way in terms of what I enjoy in my music. But with songs like Deacon Blues and Peg, I think this is, of all the albums we've talked about, it has the highest highs of the ones I've talked about, on my list. And I do think it's a good album. I don't need to hear it for a while, though. I've heard it a lot recently. for various things. So yeah, I think my opinion on it is pretty set. I like it, but there's a big gap between 4 and 3 for me. There's 3 Steely Dan albums that I think are really, really great, and Asia just misses out on that, but definitely a good album.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I got a little stroke there, but you also got a big little stroke when I talked about the debut. But so it's like a even ground. And my number 4 is an album you talked, Katy Lied. And yeah, album with Jeff Porcaro playing 9 out of 10 songs. And yeah, obviously big fan of him. And like it's pretty awesome he got to play most of those albums. And when he didn't, the other drummer was Hal Blaine, and he's a drum legend. And like Jeff is just awesome. And yeah, I don't think it's I was thinking like first of where I'm gonna put this album, because like I love aspects to it, but there are maybe some songs I'm like looking at the track listing like, I have no what did I listen to that? But like but then there's songs that are really cool, and it's like a kind of fun to listen to actually. And it's 35 minutes long, and Black Friday starts well, nice lead guitar, and it's kind of a snappy song. I knew that already. And like Bad Sneakers, I think it's the first time when Michael McDonald is backing up in the vocals, and I do love Michael McDonald, and yeah, he's a great addition. And maybe I wasn't as big of a fan of some of the verses, and I that sometimes could happen also if you have like a fantastic chorus and the verses just don't excite me as much. But and maybe when I listen to this fairly quickly, and sometimes I started to get a little tired maybe of like a Fagan's speaking but singing type of vocals. And I guess he does his thing well, but he kind of does his own thing a lot. But obviously, it's very well thought of. And yeah, I think I liked Dr. Wu more than you. I'm a big saxophone guy, and it's awesome. Everyone's Gone to the Movies has a pretty catchy chorus. Chain Lightning has more bluesy feel, and and I think Any World That I'm Welcome to is one of my favorites. Love the chorus, very like lovely. And Hal Blaine is on drums on that song, and yeah, he's awesome and does those like little snare fills. And yeah, like I think I'm gonna keep in the 8 zone still, 8 out of 10 for Katy Lied. But it's a fun listen. But in some ways, I'm like kind of conflicted because I remember more of the second album. But I guess I still put it as my number 4, Katy Lied.
Yeah, my like I said, between 4 and 3 is a big gap for me. I think Steely Dan have 3 albums that I hold very highly, which is definitely more than I expected going into this. So I'm happy.
Mm.
My number 3 is Pretzel Logic, which I had at number 2 before I re-listened to my songs list, and I was like, I think the best songs are better on my number 2. So flipped. But This is a very interesting album for me. It's a lot more ramshackle than what they'd done before. It's a bit more all over the place. They're experimenting with what they were doing a bit more, which works for me because I'm a guy who likes a ramshackle album. The White Album is my third favorite album ever. So, I like when artists sort of explore different styles within their same sound. You know what I mean? Like there's a few songs on here that do drift away into something different, but it still sounds like Steely Dan, which is a hard thing to accomplish. I do agree with you that the A side is definitely better. Ricky Don't Lose That Number, great song. Love the rhythm of it. Night by Night is so cool. Love the guitar on that. The tone is so good. And yeah, the drums are out of this world. Probably my favorite drums from Jeff Porcaro for the band. And he was obviously, this is the first one he did. So pretty nuts. Any Major Dude Will Tell You is a nice sort of groovy track. The acoustic guitar sounds really cool. Barrytown is awesome. Great lyrics, really catchy. And then you end the first side with East St. Louis to Lou, which is fine. And then Parker's band comes in and the momentum's all back. The drums are nuts on that song as well. Like you mentioned, two drum kits. And then you get some really weird songs on the second side, which I actually like quite a lot of them. A lot of really short songs because it's like you said, 11 songs, 33 minutes. Through with Buzz. It's cool. And you got the title track, which is one of their better sort of bluesy songs. I really love the sort of the Western vibe of With a Gun, something completely different for them. Really like that song. The rolling piano riff of Charlie's Freak is glorious. Love it so much. The song itself is fine, but the piano riff like elevates it. And then Monkey in Your Soul is a decent way to close. So overall, I think this is a great album. I love how they branch out and try different styles within their own cohesive vision. I have a feeling this could definitely grow on me, but yeah, at the end of the day, I looked like song for song compared to my number two, and that album is a bit better, but this album is probably a bit more exciting and a bit more different. So it's a strong 8 for me. I think it's really great, and yeah, sad to only put it at the bronze medal, but you know they have some great albums.
Yeah, yeah. Um, good review, good review. I'm like, this is tough actually. These last three are the ones I love the most. They're all back to back, and I really like what I'm gonna do next. It's tough. I'm gonna say the Royal Scam is my number three. But there's like my number 3 and 2 is so close that maybe when I'm looking back to this, I'm like, oh dear, but like these are all awesome actually. And it starts awesomely with Kid Charlemagne. It's a classic. I love the guitar solos by Larry Carlton, and the song has very fat drum groove, and the whole song is just awesome to the limit. And yeah, the Caves of Altamira continues the album well, and Don't Take Me Alive. I don't know, is it a classic? But I hear that uh, I see that title sometimes, so maybe I think it's more of a classic than it actually is. But it's great lead guitar. I guess yeah, the use of session musicians they started to use on some of these albums are absolutely nuts, and they really really just got a big just, and it's just read Wikipedia. There's like every session player here has a almost its own wiki page, and so wild. And I guess the whole album just has Wild playing Signing Stranger, especially, and the Fess, which has Walter Becker doing the guitar, and I think Haitian Divorce is cool because it has like that talk box guitar, and it's very defining sound. And I don't necessarily want it in everything, but it works very well here. And I love the last song, Royal Scam, with Carlton's guitar touches. And his feel is very inspiring, actually. It's more atmospheric track, perhaps. And yeah, Bernard Purdy plays most of the drums here, and he's an awesome drummer. And yeah, it's a I don't know what to say actually, in a way, because these are getting to the point where they're just pretty much perfect, honestly. And I don't know what to fault. And so I don't know if I'm bold enough. Because I don't know what to. I like every song. I think the production is awesome.
So it's a 10, is what you're
It's
saying.
a 10. It's a 10, yeah. But I started to like think like because my last score was 8, like just almost never happens that I
Mm.
skip a
Well, it happens sometimes.
9.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's my tree.
Let's keep talking about the Royal Scam. My number 2. Um, awesome album. So cool. More R&B influenced than anything they've done before. Horns sound amazing on it. Great backing vocals, sort of like gospel style at times. It's like a funk to a lot of these songs, which is really cool. I'm going to make the claim that side 1 of this album is the best side of music they ever did. Kid Charlemagne, which I already knew, is amazing. Of course, Kanye West sampled it for Champion. Uh, really cool. Solo goes hard as hell. I think maybe Don Fagen's best vocal performance comes on that album, especially on that song, especially towards the end. Caves of Altamira, absolute banger. Love the hook. Again, sort of R&B feel, great horns. Don't Take Me Alive is one that actually grew on me quite a lot. It's an absolute shred fest. Um, the album feels so tight, but less innately polished than what would come afterwards, which is kind of an interesting combo. Silent Stranger has that really awesome opening chaotic piano part. Love the lyrics again. It's just very punchy and immediate. Like this first side is just banger after banger after banger. And then you get the Fez, which very like I don't want to say it's underwritten, but you could criticize it for not being the most well thought out song, but the groove is just so good and it's so catchy that I every time it comes on, I'm bobbing my head. It is such a great song that it is, it becomes one of the highlights, even though lyrically it's, not much to it really. And then side 2, it's not that side 2 is weak. I especially like Haitian Divorce. I think that song's really fun. Love the lyrics. The whole congratulations, this is your Haitian divorce. It's like such a weird, weird song, but I really like it. Green Earrings is fine. Not massive on it. Everything You Did, that song is the album killer for me. That I really don't like it. And it comes right near the end as well after so much greatness. And that song is just, it's nothing really. But I do like the closing title track a lot. Like you said, more atmospheric. Again, this and Pretzel Logic, I feel like could definitely grow on me. It was very hard to compare them because I feel like Pretzel Logic is the better straight through listen for me. But the Raw Scam, the musicianship, the songwriting, everything just comes together to make this really strong album. Even if a couple of the tracks I'm not as big on. Um, yeah, high is extremely high. Love the R&B influence on this. It's number 2, still an 8, but my 8s mean great. So I think it's a great album.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah, Ruscam's awesome. And
Yeah, we can agree on that. That's
just
the only thing we can agree on today.
yeah. And I just thought of like I know that 1982 Donald Fagen solo album, The Night Fly. Kind of think of it almost as Steely Dan album, and that would perhaps be my 9 out of 10 if it would be a Steely Dan album. And the number 2 is Gaucho, and I might be putting this the highest than anyone, but like this is like total my style of music. It's produced to the limit. I don't know how to fault that, and it's totally awesome. You can just blast that and have a good time. I guess in some ways this is also an album you can just, like you said, put on when your parents come in. But I, I guess I can't. I would just groove so much and with this one and yeah, this was nominated for Album of the Year Grammy, lost to Double Fantasy by John Lennon, and yeah, and this was the third time they won the Best Engineered Non-Classical Recording Grammy, and like they won for Asia, and then they won for one song from a soundtrack in 1978, I think, and yeah, third time, and yeah, 37 minutes of pretty much awesomeness. Like I guess in some ways I'm always, I think that I don't know if drums the most that I notice in music. I'm not sure, but man, the drums is awesome. I can just get into the music so much that sometimes I just forget to listen other things maybe. But and Babylon Sisters have Bernard Purdy as the drummer, and he does his pretty famous Birdie Shuffle here. And yeah, love Babylon Sisters, and I love in Hey 19 when they just let the groove just go on in the end and let it breathe. I think I don't I think that's more of a Taavi thing than Tom thing. That I think, but I do like that style, and we both really enjoyed Clamor Profession, if I got it right. Steve Gadd on drums, and I love the guitar noodling in the end. Didn't write who is it, but like it's awesome. And Gaucho has Jeff Porcaro on drums, and he had they put him to play it like, I don't know, 40 times or I don't know how many times, but wow, it's just that drum track is just perfect. And Time Out of Mind is really awesome as well. The master himself is playing there on the lead guitar, Mark Knopfler. Love him. And just I didn't put maybe a great notes here because I was just so much enjoying the music, but like maybe I have a feeling you might see some of these in my top 10 songs. And yeah, very consistent album, but consistently awesome. Kind of I guess my top 2 is like the more very smooth yacht rock feels like I'm on a boat or something, but I'm actually quite broke actually right now, but I wouldn't mind being on a boat, so maybe I just like to imagine that. Yeah, Couch is my number 2, 10.
Well, I don't get to a 10, but this album uh, I liked more this time around. It's up to a 9. It wasn't 8. Can't buy a thrill. Maybe predictable that I go for the early 70s sort of pop rock album and not the the more engineered stuff later on. But it just keeps drawing me back again and again. From the opening percussion of "Do It Again," you know you're listening to a pretty unique band, especially for 1972. That song was, yeah, I've had an interesting relationship with that song because I didn't like it at first, and then I loved it, and now I've listened to it so much that I'm like a little bit tired of it. Only a little bit. I still think it's brilliant, but of all the songs on this album, that's the one where I'm like, okay, I've heard this a lot. Um, Dirty Work was the first Steely Dan song I ever heard. Great vocal performance from David Palmer, actually. um, so I have an emotional attachment to it for that reason. I'll talk about that more in the other video. Kings is great. Great lyrics, great piano. Love the outro as well. Midnight Cruiser has one of my favorite guitar solos in the discography. So cool. Only a fool would say that. Sort of cool percussion, pop and bass. Great structure to the song as well. A side is just so good. And then you get Reeling in the Years, which is another song similar to Do It Again. I was like, And I think it's because of what you were saying about the chorus. It's like, I really like the lyrics. The verses, and then the chorus is just a bit basic, you know. But I've kind of been able to look past that because of everything else that the song is, and that 1 minute guitar solo that comes in around halfway through is absolutely face melting. It is so good. Best guitar solo in the discography for me. Brooke Knows the Charmer Under Me, I think is brilliant. Love the guitar, love the intro. Chorus is great. Change the Guard, probably the least memorable song on the album, but still pretty good. And I really like the closer, Turn That Heartbeat Over Again. This whole week I've had Oh Michael, Oh Jesus stuck in my head over and over again. Just like that part. Cool stuff. Album is a great vibe. Love the sort of Latin percussion you get at certain points. It's well crafted, sounds great, but it feels a little bit more loose and a little bit less sort of meticulous and slaved over than what would come later. This and Pretzel Logic really are the ones that feel a little bit less meticulous in terms of their craft. And I think this one just has much better songs front to back. And yeah, the Raw Scam kind of has that cool R&B sound. So that's kind of my sweet spot for Steely Dan, is when they're being less like Steely Dan. But even when they're being Steely Dan, I think they're good. I had almost every album at least a 7. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for Can't Buy a Thrill. I think it's fantastic. Probably will like it even more the next time I listen to it.
Yeah. Well, it's the first album, so I guess that's the true Steely Dan, maybe. I don't know. But like, I knew you were going to be higher than I was, and maybe it's when I had maybe a little too expectations, because the only one I knew fully was album I absolutely love, would put very high on my all-time favorites, and it's Asia. And like, the songs are just too awesome, too awesome. I'm gonna talk about more of the songs maybe in the top 10 songs video, but you should watch that. And yeah, I guess I have a little controversial opinion still about Asia, and with that, my least favorite song is actually Decom Blues, which I still think is very good. I love the sax on it, but like, yeah, maybe the lyrics are very good. Like, I assume they're good. I'm not big on lyrics. Like, I don't know that that doesn't make any sense of when you're reviewing an album, but I guess I'm not a reviewer. I like something, and yeah, and just how much time and care they spent on this album, and very obviously maybe more even to Gaucho. I mean, they used more time with Gaucho, I think, kind of obsessed maybe, and yeah, I'm gonna say, um, when like side 2 starts, obviously I'm a CD listener, but Beck comes along, and holy, it's just so catchy. One of the catchiest Steely Dan songs for me. And yeah, again, I love Michael McDonald coming in to chorus to sing Beck. And yeah, yeah. I don't know, Michael McDonald singing the lead vocals on Steely Dan would have to be cool, but I don't know. But yeah, it's I don't know what to say. This album sounds perfect. One of my favorite sounding albums of all time. And I think Gaucho is also pretty perfect. And awesome jazz rock. This I like absolutely love the title track. And the Steve Gadd comes along with his drums and even does a drum solo in that song. And it's just when you blast that song, oh, even the neighbors like it so much. And yeah, I like every song, even if I had a little Deacon Blues slight problem. It's still a 10. I'm not. Maybe it's like 2 7+ minutes back to back, and I love Asia more and kind of. So I don't know, but and yeah, I love Home at Lasted too. I think, and Bernard Birdie plays on that, and just awesome jazzy number. But yeah, what I gathered from this, yeah, this is a 10 album, but I gathered from this ranking mate perhaps was like I'm not completely sure, but maybe I was more into the jazzy stuff, and Tom was more kind of a I don't know classic rock. I don't know what to say, Steely Dan stuff.
The more like pop rock sounding stuff.
Mm,
And again, like I liked almost all of these albums. Two Against Nature is the only one that I'd be like, I'm not listening to that again. like I said, even Gaucho I'd put on if I was in the mood for that kind of music. So
mm, mm,
there we go.
yeah,
Steely Dan album ranking went a bit longer than I thought, but hey, good discussion. Good discussion. And thank
yeah,
you for joining us. Songs video will be coming soon. Let us know what you think of Steely Dan, how you'd rank the albums. You probably hate either me or Taavi, depending what your preferences are, because we basically had opposite preferences.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe you hate both of us. Who knows? The only album that came out of it unscathed was The Royal Scam, so everything else got messed up. So thank you very much for watching. Songs video will come later this week, and hopefully we'll catch you soon.